I just turned 40. Yay! And as a special birthday treat, I want to share with you now the top 40 video game music that changed my life. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that this is my top 40 video game music of all time, but rather, these are the pieces of video game music that affected me, inspired me, taught me a lesson, made me cry, and this is a very personal list that will most likely not match with your list. Let's begin! Number 1. Super Mario Bros. Overworld theme. Before I heard the Super Mario Bros. Theme, my introduction to video game music was just short snippets of music like Pac-Man's or Space Invaders. But upon hearing the now iconic Super Mario Bros. Overworld theme, for the first time in my life I heard a full song that was actually composed for video game music. And that fact alone turned my world upside down and brought me one step closer to dreaming of becoming a video game composer. Number 2. Super Mario Bros. Underground theme. This theme directly affected me in a way that it made me strive to be a better musician. There's this certain passage in which there's a fast triplet run, but for a young 8-year-old violinist, this was almost impossible for me to play. This became some sort of benchmark for me to test my skills as a musician, and many years later when I was finally able to play that passage, it became a personal victory for me. Number 3. Super Mario Bros. 2 ending theme. Hearing this music when I was a kid is the first memory I have of video game music making me really emotional. I cried. Because when you finally beat the game and you realize that it was all a dream and that Mario was just sleeping through the rest of the adventures. And you know what? As a little kid, this was like Inception level of twist for me. So yeah, it made me emotional. Number 4. Contra Jungle theme. The very iconic Contra Jungle theme is another piece like the Mario Underground piece, which became a piece for me to aspire to perform on violin because of that fast running passage in the beginning. And of course, being able to finally perform it and even make a cover of it was another milestone in my musical life. Number 5. Castlevania Vampire Killer. This is the first video game piece I can remember that made me feel like a badass adventurer. Like I was ready to storm Dracula and defeat him in his castle. And I even remember that one time as a kid where I would cosplay as Simon Belmont during Halloween and would go on pretend vampire hunting adventures with the neighbor kids while humming this theme. Number 6. Castlevania Simon's Quest. Bloody Tears. Growing up in a household of musicians, it was very easy for me to fall in love with classical music as a kid, specifically to Bach's music, and I couldn't be happier when I heard Bloody Tears for the first time, as it reminded me so much of the preludes and the fugues of classical music, specifically Bach's Toccata in Fugue in D minor. And this was a worlds collide moment for me because for the first time, the lines have blurred between classical and video game music. Mind blown. Number 7. Twinbee Stage 1. So here's a deep cut entry. The first level of Twinbee has this very beautiful melody that really moved me and made me feel like I'm soaring the skies. And it's influenced the way I write melodies in my compositions even today. Number 8. Mario 3 ending theme. The Mario 3 ending theme influenced me in a different way. The original 8-bit version is already a great piece of standalone music by its own merit. But what really moved me to tears was when I saw a YouTube video of an official Nintendo Big Band concert and they performed this piece in a slower, more emotional way. There's a certain soprano saxophone passage which really made me so emotional the first time I heard it, and even after multiple listens, it still makes me cry. I was so moved that I immediately decided that I should cover this piece and try to make it sound as emotional, as upbeat, as positive as this big band version. And I'm still very proud of that cover. Number 9. Street Fighter II VEGA'S theme. Another advantage of growing up with a family of musicians is being exposed to so many varieties of music. My mom, who's a classical guitar player herself, loves sharing her classical guitar music collection with me. And I was so mesmerized by Spanish classical guitar music like Cordoba, Asturias, and Recuerdos de Alhambra performed by John Williams, the guitar player, not the composer. This made me easier to appreciate flamenco music when I first heard it. And when I first heard VEGA'S theme in Street Fighter II, I was immediately captivated by the flamenco elements that I heard. And once again, here comes another Worlds Collide music, flamenco music, Spanish classical guitar music, and video game music colliding for the first time in my life. It was such an amazing feeling. Number 10. Link to the Past, Time of Falling Rain. This piece directly influenced me back in high school when I was writing music for an original high school play. I took heavy inspiration from the piece by referencing its chord progression in many parts of the music I wrote. But even today, as I hear this piece, it transports me to a kingdom in a dark time, and you, as the adventurer, must go out, fight some evil monsters, rescue the princess, and save the kingdom. No biggie. Number 11. Link to the Past, Dark World theme. If the film world has John Williams' Star Wars Imperial March as its most iconic villain theme, in my personal opinion, I think Koji Kondo's Dark World theme from A Link to the Past is our closest video game equivalent. Every time I hear this music, I always get images of Ganondorf and his villainy, and me as the adventurer marching on to his castle to defeat him. It evokes so much evilness and badassery at the same time, and it's still one of my favorite video game themes of all time, even today. It is simply just an excellent piece of music, and it's also a masterclass in how to write villainous themes. Number 12. Link to the Past, Hyrule Castle. Again, like entry number 10, Hyrule Castle not only mesmerized me with its pseudo-Middle Eastern scales and its epic orchestration despite the MIDI limitations of the time. I also referenced its chord progression and melodic structure in writing the music for that same high school play I mentioned at number 10 of this list. Number 13. Link to the Past, Kakariko Village theme. And now we're getting into serious nostalgia vibes. Link to the Past's Kakariko Village is the first piece that made me actually want to stop playing the game and just listen to the music. At the time, there was simply no other way to listen to official video game music, aside from hearing it in-game. Ordering soundtrack albums from Japan was simply not a thing, and the only other alternative was low-resolution bootleg MP3s. Kakariko Village is the crucial point in my life where I realized that video game music is serious business and made me start dreaming about becoming a film and video game composer, which of course I did. Number 14. Link to the Past, Overworld theme. Yes, there are many versions of the Overworld theme from Legend of Zelda, especially considering that Link to the Past is not the first one to use it. But Link to the Past is the first Zelda game I owned and played from start to finish. And this is the version that I got exposed to the most. And when I arranged and uploaded my first Zelda medley on YouTube, I based all the themes from A Link to the Past. Link to the Past is really a big part of my childhood, and that's why it's so prominent in this list. That Zelda medley, of course, would become my first viral hit. It motivated me a lot to upload more video game covers on YouTube. Nearly 6 years later, I renamed my channel to String Player Gamer, and that's why we're here. So I guess I'll just say it. Link to the Past is the reason why String Player Gamer exists. Mind blown. Number 15. Super Mario RPG Hello Happy Kingdom. In the earlier Mario games, we were told that Mushroom Kingdom is a kingdom. But I have never felt the Mushroom Kingdom to be much of a kingdom until Super Mario RPG. Yes, we see a castle, we see flags, but we never really got a glimpse of the ministers or the courts and the court members. But all that changed in Super Mario RPG when we finally saw the Mushroom Kingdom as a functioning royal court, complete with a chancellor. And this piece, with its very royal and majestic arrangement, was the final icing on the cake. Number 16. STARCRAFT Terran 1 Theme. The Terran 1 theme from STARCRAFT, along with the other Terran themes, made me feel for the first time like I was playing an action Hollywood film in a PC game. The combination of metal guitars and symphonic orchestral elements in the piece actually affected my compositional style. I usually default to this kind of instrumental combination when I'm writing original music for films, TV shows, and now my video game covers as well. Number 17. Mega Man 3 Sparkman Theme. Sparkman theme from Mega Man 3 is one of those well-composed pieces with memorable melodic lines and counterpoints complicated enough that it actually became a mind challenge for me on how to pull this off as an orchestral arrangement. It became some sort of a personal puzzle for me to solve, and I'm really proud of the result of how I did it. It definitely leveled me up 2 to 3 times as an orchestrator. Number 18. Civilization 3 Industrial Age Theme, also known as Haydn Piano Sonata No. 49. Although this piece is actually a classical piano sonata by Franz Joseph Haydn, the way it was used in Civilization 3 was amazing in my personal experience because this music plays during the Industrial Revolution era of the game. This is the time when your civilization is advanced enough to learn steam technology and build railroads, stuff like that. I always looked forward to this part of the game, especially when this music starts to play, because that means I'm playing the game right, I'm nearly winning, and it always made me look forward to playing the game even more thanks to this piece. Number 19. Curse of Monkey Island Puerto Pollo Theme. In my younger days, I was never really a fan of wind instruments, solely because I didn't really hear any representative pieces that convinced me of its beauty. And I already had a bias towards string instruments even as a young kid. But Puerto Pollo was a complete game changer. Using the instrumentation of flutes, oboes, clarinets, and a bassoon, this video game piece made me finally appreciate a very good composition for wind instruments. And I've been a fan ever since. Number 20. Ragnarok Online PAYON Theme. The PAYON theme is so imbued with Asian imagery and is another piece that influenced me as a composer. By the time I heard this piece, I was already active in a band called Makiling, who specializes on the combination of Asian and rock music. This made me appreciate PAYON theme even more because of how pure it sounds. I've since then adapted this style of composition in more of my music later on, especially in my Hegalong project. Number 21. Grandia Main Theme. The main theme from Grandia on PlayStation is such a cinematic, positive, and epic orchestral piece that I shed a tear every time I hear it. It's actually one of the earliest video game music I heard that was recorded with a live orchestra and not just MIDI, which was unusual back then. This made me appreciate orchestral music in video games even more. Number 22. Final Fantasy Tactics TRISECTION. This piece appears in a very crucial part of the game where things suddenly change from lighthearted fun to a more serious story with higher stakes. It changed my life in the sense that it kind of gave me an on-the-job training on how to compose more serious symphonic music for my film scores. Number 23, Final Fantasy VII Main Theme. This piece, which can be heard during world map exploration in the game, influenced me in such a way that for the first time in my life, upon playing the video game, it made me feel that the game world is larger than life, that there is so much to discover out there, that it is a huge open world. And of course, this influenced my composition and arrangement style, in which I learned another way to use chord progressions and melodies that give the listener the impression of a vast expanse and total freedom of exploration. Number 24, Final Fantasy VIII Silence and Motion. As a composition major in college, I was required to compose in a style called avant-garde music or atonal music. To the normal listener, it would just be classified in the weird music category. This piece actually reminds me of that style, but it's still balanced enough to be jammable and have a singable melody. If I were asked to compose avant-garde style music again, I would model it from this piece, and of course I would add my own twist to it. Number 25, Chrono Cross Scars of Time. This piece became another benchmark for me as an arranger and as a performer. I've wanted to cover this piece for a long time, but I believe I made the right decision to wait it out for a few years more until I became much better at playing the violin, much better at music production, and much better as an arranger, because this is one of the pieces that I think is so perfectly arranged and perfectly composed, just the right length and oozing with a lot of cinematic, nostalgic, and epic flair altogether. I needed to match it to my skills to give it justice. I'm still very proud when I made that leap and finally made a cover of the piece, because it meant that I simply became a better musician. Number 26, Final Fantasy VIII BALAMB Garden. BALAMB Garden is such an acoustic style masterpiece that I actually use it as a blueprint on how to arrange acoustic music for guitar and other instruments. I have used this format many times in some of my video game covers here on YouTube. Number 27, Final Fantasy VIII Force Your Way. Here's another benchmark piece I have yet to cover. It is such an epic and energetic piece that requires skill and nuance. I feel that I'm almost ready to make a cover of it. Subscribe and you'll be the first to know when I do. Number 28, Final Fantasy IX A Place to Call Home. This piece evokes one thing: simplicity. It is also a very nostalgic piece and makes me feel like I'm longing for home, even upon hearing it for the first time. This has taught me as a composer and arranger that minimalist approach in instrumentation, that sometimes less is more. Number 29, Final Fantasy IX Eternal Harvest. As a big fan of Celtic music groups like Riverdance and the Chieftains, it really blew my mind when for the first time I heard Celtic-style music in a Final Fantasy game. Worlds collide once again, and it also encouraged me to pursue some Celtic-style fiddling in some of my video game covers. Number 30, Final Fantasy X Battle Theme. There is this one section in the Final Fantasy X battle theme that made me appreciate the syncopated offbeats in a rock arrangement. And little did I know, that's actually how prog rock music is arranged. So in a way, Final Fantasy X's battle theme was the catalyst for me to start noticing the genre. I have since then started to adapt some prog rock elements in some of my more metal covers. Number 31, Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. Reign of the Septims. Before I played the Elder Scrolls series, my introduction to the role-playing game genre was exclusively through Japanese RPGs or JRPGs from the PlayStation consoles. Elder Scrolls Oblivion was my first introduction to Western RPGs, and what a great introduction it was because the epic opening music immediately hooked me. It signaled to me that this was going to be a cinematic high fantasy experience. I still fondly replay the game from time to time, and the music is the glue that keeps me coming back to Tamriel. Number 32. XENOGEARS, Leftovers of the Dreams of the Strong. XENOGEARS is a very deep RPG with lots of philosophical, religious, and political narrative undertones. Its serious storylines made me really enjoy the journey when I beat the game, and one of the pieces of music that really helped glue my attention sounds like an adventurous march. Despite the bleak state of affairs in the game's story, this very positive sounding piece was like a call to action for me to move forward and carry on with the adventure. Suffice to say, it also influenced my orchestration style. Number 33. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Dracula's Castle. Every time I hear Dracula's Castle from Symphony of the Night, it just makes me want to go on a vampire hunting adventure with a short sword and a cross, which also doubles as a deadly boomerang. It's an exhilarating piece and also one of my blueprints for arranging symphonic metal pieces. Number 34. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Lost Painting. Here comes a very subdued piece with a very memorable melody, but it also doesn't go over the top dramatic. It doesn't go over the top with its build-up. Not only did I make a cover of this masterpiece twice, but I also wrote a lot of original music in the same chill style as Lost Painting, some of which can be found in my Hegalong Project playlist. Number 35. Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, The Great Ocean. This piece is a great example of utilizing space when writing melody. And when I say space, what I mean is that the melody doesn't try to cram every measure with too many notes. It is also an adventurous piece that makes me want to go on a swashbuckling adventure defeating pirates, conquering haunted islands, and raiding dungeons for treasure. Number 36. Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, Dragon Roost Island. The original version of Dragon Roost Island is quite simple, but if you actually dissect the piece, it's so versatile in almost any kind of arrangement. It works well as a rock metal piece, it works well as an acoustic piece, as a chamber orchestral piece, and so on. It's so good that I've already covered it twice in my channel, and I plan to cover it at least 2 more times in the future. It's a piece that's worth revisiting over and over again with different approaches to arrangement. Number 37. Super Mario Galaxy, Gusty Garden. Gusty Garden is such a perfect melody. Aside from being one of the most iconic video game pieces of all time, it also signifies that the Mario series has evolved into the modern era of gaming. The fact that this is also arranged in an epic orchestral style makes it a masterclass on how to write memorable symphonic pieces. Number 38. Undertale, Snowy. Those of you who have been following my channel for a while know that I bombarded you once with a lot of covers from this indie RPG called Undertale. But before I even became invested in all of Undertale music, the one song that started it all is the song called Snowy. Now I know that it's not one of the more popular songs from the game's soundtrack, but it is the one piece that made me notice the beauty of Undertale's music for what it is. So in a way, my Undertale covers and my subsequent 5 Undertale albums were made possible because of this one song. Number 39, Assassin's Creed 2, Home in Florence. Jesper Kyd's Home in Florence from Assassin's Creed 2 opened my ears to the subtle beauty of minimalist ambient composition. And not only is this such a relaxing and haunting piece, it also taught me subdued methods and low-key approaches in writing some of my compositions. Number 40, Animal Crossing series, KK Cruisin'. Here is a chord progression so jammable, so versatile that I had to cover it twice. Once when I was still a younger, less refined musician, and the second time where I invited 47 other musicians to do an 18-minute jam version of this piece. There's just so many styles that you can fit with this one chord progression. I listen to KK Cruisin' on a regular basis to unwind my mind when I want to think of fresh musical ideas. And there you have it, everyone. 40 pieces of video game music for 40 years of my life. What are the pieces of video game music that changed your life? What's the story behind it? Let us all know in the comments. Thank you for watching until the end. I'll see you in the next video and stay awesome, stringies.